So July 7th, the 25th anniversary of Final Fantasy IX came, and did we get any news on the heavily rumored Final Fantasy IX Remake? So I previously said that I would stop talking about the remake if it didn't get announced by the anniversary date, but it turns out that it didn't. So will I stop? Well, there's a lot of other interesting things we have to talk about first, before I tell you my decision on that. There has been new artwork illustrated by Toshiyuki Idahana posted, some peculiar looking posts from both Gamescom and the Future Game Show's official X account, as well as suspicious activity from Project Memoria, and rumors of Final Fantasy IX Remake being cancelled? So knowing everything that's happened so far, is the Final Fantasy IX Remake dead? Or is it just being born? So let's start off with the artwork that was shared by Square Enix, illustrated by the character designer Toshiyuki Idahana. They posted one of Kuja inside the Ifa tree, alongside his silver dragon, and then another one of the whole party together looking out at the Ifa tree off in the distance. You can also see Kuja flying on his silver dragon in the sky, as well as the twin moons. The most notable thing about this image, besides Steiner helping Master Vivi up, which is very kawaii, is that Dagger's hair is long, which, if the whole gang is together, it's likely that she would have cut her hair by this point. It seems like they're trying to avoid spoilers, even though they're happy to include the exact scene where she cuts her hair in all of the promotional material, including the one they posted on for the anniversary. But anyways, the fact that they're trying to prevent spoilers could be a minor hint that the remake exists, but I don't think it's a good one. There's no scene from the original game that depicts this exact moment, so we could speculate that this is indicative of a remake, but I just don't think it's worth speculating on that, because this just feels to me like this is meant to be key promotional art and not necessarily trying to depict an exact moment in the game. In fact, I would go so far as to say that if the remake is real, this artwork could very easily be the box art for the game. Square Enix's marketing has been a real fan of using hand-drawn artwork as the box art for a lot of their recent titles, so this would be perfectly in line with that. But I would say that what's depicted in these two art pieces is less relevant to the possibility of a remake than their mere existence. You see, it's one thing to just share a quick piece of art for an anniversary, but the fact that not only have we gotten all new artwork of the characters from Toshiyuki Idahana, but he also illustrated an entire children's book and now these two pieces of art. And for the record, these two pieces of art are very polished and likely took a long time for him to make. Like, this dude isn't just doing this out of love for Final Fantasy IX, not to say that he's disliking it per se, but it seems like it's... And why the hell would Square Enix commission all of this, along with all of the other countless amount of merchandise they're selling right now for the 25th anniversary, if there isn't some kind of a big game to reveal? They've never gone this far with any singular game's anniversary. Hell, I don't even think they went this far with the merch for Final Fantasy's 20th anniversary when it happened, and that was probably the biggest anniversary event they've done in the past. There wasn't even this level of commitment to Final Fantasy VII's 25th anniversary, and 7 is their golden goose. It doesn't really make any business sense for him to be putting this level of work just to celebrate the 25th anniversary of a video game when he would normally be working on some other project. There would have to be some kind of new video game that this artwork is being created for, and the only game that would make sense is a Final Fantasy IX Remake. However, there's one explanation that could explain why maybe there is no remake. It's possible that it was real, but has now been cancelled. The infamous leaker Nate the Hate posted on Reset Era that I did hear a month or so ago that it was in trouble and possibly cancelled. I only had one source on the cancellation possibility and need to verify the info further. So the only other explanation as to why Square Enix would go so far with the Final Fantasy IX 25th anniversary is that they had a game that they planned to release and created all of this merch to help market the upcoming release, but then decided to cancel it, leaving them with all of this leftover merch for the game. If that's the case, then it would make sense as to why they're pushing this 25th anniversary so hard, and it would also explain why all of this artwork was created. It was for a game, but it's no longer in development, development, and they might as well recoup some of the money they spent on all of the merch by celebrating its 25th anniversary and selling it. Now, for the record, Nate didn't say that his sources told him it was cancelled, but since the game wasn't revealed on the game's actual anniversary date after all of the marketing push for Final Fantasy IX's 25th anniversary, he seemed to think that maybe it would be a good idea to try to check in on his sources for another update to make sure, since he recalls some rumblings of its development not going so smoothly. And so that leaves us with some hope that it is in fact still real. But is it warranted? Well, there are even more developments that are quite peculiar if you ask me. Firstly, the Project Memoria X account, which, if you don't know what Project Memoria is, it's this fan project made by a small team of individuals that showcases what their vision of a Final Fantasy IX remake would look like, depicting the opening segments of the game. They posted this. When are we gonna tell them, Square Enix? That's kinda sus, but it gets even better. It also appears that the Project Memoria website has been taken down. If you try to visit the website, it says that the website has expired. So what do I think is going on with this? Well, we'll get to that in a minute, because there's also some interesting posts from the Gamescom X account. When the official Final Fantasy page posted this artwork, the official Gamescom account commented on the post saying, "A place to call home." And then they also replied to a post Square Enix made asking, "Which Final Fantasy monster scares you the most?" And they commented, "This one." Which is hilarious, by the way, but it does seem like they are taking more of an interest in Final Fantasy IX. And then the biggest hint of all comes from a post made by the Future Games Show account. They posted on Final Fantasy IX's 25th anniversary, "Happy 25th anniversary to Final Fantasy IX." And then, in parentheses, it says, "To anyone who has spent the whole day holding out hope for remake news, I see you." So if the Final Fantasy IX remake is real and is going to be shown at the Future Games Show, which is coming up on August 20th, the day after Gamescom opening night live, then this is about as much foreshadowing as is possible without literally spilling the beans that they're going to show the game at the show, and is likely it will be revealed the night prior at Gamescom. So what do I think of all this? Is Final Fantasy IX Remake being born? Or has it died or been cancelled? Call me crazy, but I think it's just being born. Not only is it even more likely since the reveal of Final Fantasy Tactics: The Ivalice Chronicles, given it was one of the only games still left to be revealed from the Nvidia leak, but if we imagine it was in development but got cancelled, I still don't think Square Enix would go this far with creating and releasing all of this merch and pushing this whole 25th anniversary celebration unless they knew the game was far enough along that it was inevitably going to release at some point. Is it possible it's not tracking along as far as they expected? Sure. This is Square Enix we're talking about. Almost all of their projects take a million years beyond their expectations. So, truth be told, this is, for better or for worse, perfectly in character for Square Enix. So maybe the game has been delayed internally to 2027, which would also fall in line with their new business plan, where the CEO essentially said that they didn't expect to release any big titles until 2027 anyway, while they undergo their reboots and reawakens strategy that they've put in place. So it could be a bit further away than we may have initially expected. And as far as Project Memoria is concerned, do they know anything about this remake? Are they in fact working on it? I don't think they're actively working on the game, but it wouldn't surprise me if Square Enix decided to take advantage of their talents to help market the game, so my guess is they know about it. And this wouldn't be a bad idea since they've already garnered a pretty strong following of 26,000 subscribers on their YouTube channel and are pretty well known amongst Final Fantasy IX fans at this point. So that would probably make the most sense. What would they have planned to help market the game? No idea. But something along those lines is my best guess at this point to explain the weirdness that's been happening. And so, will I continue to talk and speculate about Final Fantasy IX Remake? At this point, this is probably the last dedicated video on this that I will make. I am still holding out hope, and it seems quite likely given what the Future Games Show posted on X, so I will be live streaming the show here on this YouTube channel in case it gets revealed, and probably other events as well, like potential Nintendo Directs or Sony States of Play. So you'll want to subscribe so you don't miss out on that content. But unless it gets officially revealed, I won't be making any other videos at this point. I just don't see the value in continuing to speculate any further. Once the game does show up, well, we'll likely be talking about it quite a bit, but until then, I'll be laying low on the Final Fantasy IX Remake videos. In the meantime, you should check out my video on why I don't think the Final Fantasy IX Remake will be split into multiple parts right here.